and I'm actually also looking forward to have later on like the feedback from all the experienced colleagues, what they actually experience on the ground in the cooperation with China. I also want to say that next to me there's also like a colleague of mine, Dr. Chen Ge, who is working with me on the subject of legal changes in China, and together with him I was also authoring before like a report and pointing out what the goal of the NPC is in the Chinese legal system. Later on, when we also cover like the latest and some more detailed questions about like current draft laws, etc. Coming to the start of my presentation. As most of you might know, this year was a very decisive year for like the Chinese state and government, because it was actually like the beginning of the second administration of President Xi Jinping and his premier.
Sorry, to interrupt. Your presentation is not in presentation mode yet, so we see your screen only quite small, and we see your notes. Can you maybe change that?
Okay. Is it now different?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So
Go ahead.
It was basically another. Okay. So here we go. My apologies for this. So, as you might all know, it's the beginning of the second administration of President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang. And so basically, President Xi and his number one in command of like the State Council had the chance to actually rearrange like the setup of the Chinese executive. And what we perceive and what we witness is like the most decisive restructuring of the Chinese state apparatus in decades. And we must say this is not something that has been done in an unprepared fashion, but it was actually like the result of a long-standing research and internal deliberations in China. So you don't have to expect that there are like any major problems that like the new apparatus gets functioning as we, for example, perceive in the US, but they actually can start right away with like the new setup. The merger and the establishment of organs such as the State Administration for Market Regulation have the potential of rendering regulation and monitoring much more efficient in China, because this has been one of the most troublesome experiences of many, that there are actually conflicting competences of state organs and also not a clear enforcement of existing laws. Last but not least, we will also cover like the legislative plans for like 2018. Originally, we announced that we will cover like the 5-year period, but I think due to the shortness of the webinar today, we will rather focus on like the 2018 legislative plans that have like implications for German companies or international companies active in China, and then move forward with like some of the other revised and actual plans for new laws that might have implications. So this is, for example, like the e-commerce law, a revision of the patent law, the civil code that is expected to be fully issued in 2020, and last but not least, the foreign investment law. When we look into what actually drives the agenda in China, it's actually like this goal of becoming like an economic superpower, manufacturing superpower by 2049. And so China actually wants to adapt its regulatory framework that this can actually happen by the time indicated. But it's not only like the goals of the state or of certain industrial sectors that we have to keep in mind, but also from like the Chinese legislative. It is very clear that actually the party congress that has taken place last year in October was setting the tone for the event that we witnessed like this year. So the CCP prioritizes high-quality socioeconomic development and efficient governing. Last year, they redefined the principal contradiction that actually drives in later the focus of the work of the Communist Party. So they want to have like more balanced development and growth over all the different regions in China, and not only focus on certain frontrunners in the eastern part of the country. We also saw that there are like systemic development goals put out, such as the socialist modernization by 2035, and also being like a great modern socialist country by 2049. And this also tells us it's not only about like economic development, but it's also about like the development of the Chinese society. We look into education, we look also like into price purchasing power of the people. And this is definitely giving us an idea what the government has to deliver on and what are the implications for this year's NPC. So the party has said that central authority must be boosted and that there will be more top-down policy making in the future and less of the policy implementation that is actually driven by local actors. There's also like the prioritization of certain political objectives and no longer only economic ones. So the new focus will also be on improving people's livelihoods. About like the first point of boosting central authority, there's definitely in the future more visible power of the CCP, but also all kinds of supervision organs that are not only supervising members of the Communist Party, but also all kinds of actors in the state administration and also like generally in the state sector, starting from people working in hospitals to schools and accounting institutions. There was a constitutional amendment that you all have heard of, that there is no more a limit for like the presidency of the PRC, but more importantly, the leading role of the party was included in Article 1 of the Chinese Constitution and is no longer only in the preamble. Secondly, there was like the establishment of the National Supervision Commission as one of the organs that is not controlled by the State Council, but quite the opposite. The National Supervision Commission can also control members who are in the executive. And so this is a quite decisive change, and everyone who already saw his work and his business in China being affected by the wide-ranging anti-corruption campaign in the last 5 years must be prepared that we will actually see this campaign going on and are actually in a wider circle of people that might be affected. For me, as a public administrator and scholar, it's always very interesting to look into how actually like the whole state apparatus in China is working. So I mentioned before that there have been many overlapping competencies in the past. So one of the main goals for this year, for the reshuffle, was actually streamlining competences and making clear who is in charge of what. With like the following slides, I'm going to present which departmental level state organs have actually gained and which ones actually lost in influence and competences through the reshuffle that we saw. Quite a number of organs have been abolished or merged into bigger ones, and in order to stress like certain priorities of the government, new ministries have also been formed. Looking first of all into the realm of the economy. Here we can see that, for example, ministries that are quite prominent, such as like the National Development and Reform Commission, have given away quite a number of their powers to other organs. I will later elaborate on which one these are. We have on the other side, when we look into areas that have gained in competences, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs that has taken over competences of the previously existing Ministry of Agriculture, but it's also like a clear indication that the current government and leadership wants to focus on the development of rural areas even stronger than they've done in the past. We also have seen like the establishment of a new ministry, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and an upgrade of the Ministry of Ecological Environment. And this is also a clear indication that China is actually pursuing this agenda of green development even more actively than they've done in the past. In the realm of security and justice, we also have like an elevation of the Ministry of Justice that is now the key legislator in the state realm and no longer actually challenged by actors that have been sitting in the State Council directly as an office. Education, science and culture has also gained certain competences. And last but not least, the area that deals with societal affairs has also seen like a number of new established ministerial level bodies, which stresses that this administration is also focusing on actually societal development. And currently pressing issues, the Ministry of Veteran Affairs was definitely like an answer to like the millions of veterans who have been in the street complaining about their packages when being in retirement, when being actually off service. And you might have heard that Xi Jinping actually wants to reduce the number of the PLA even more. And so this might be a more important issue to cover. And there you can see that they actually put a new ministry up to actually look into that matter and take care of any upcoming issues. We also have a Ministry of Emergency Management that was also scattered the responsibility over certain ministries, and it did not really work efficiently in the past. So there is definitely a change. So here, quite shortly, the overview of all the ministries. And you can see that it's only 2 or 3 ministries in the total setup that have not been affected by this reshuffle. So indeed, one of the most decisive reshuffles that we've seen in at least 2 decades in China. I actually want to substantiate what kind of changes the reshuffle has brought along by picking a number of key examples that might be relevant for you as business representatives. There's a clear reduction of actors in key sectors, and I've chosen the banking insurance sector, environment, and health. So